following podcast is a production of Radio Felician, the voice of Felician University of New Jersey and the home of alternative rock done right. Available via iHeartRadio, TuneIn, the Radio Felician app, and at radiofelician.com.
Radio Felician University.
This is Back to the Nest, a podcast from Felician Athletics and Radio Felician, where we spotlight and talk to former Felician University student athletes. What was it like for them to be a Golden Falcon? What are they doing today? And everything in between. Your hosts are former Felician University Athletic Director J.R. Dinallo and former Felician University Sports Information Director Mark Mentone.
You are listening to Back to the Nest, a Felician University podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm Ben J.R. Dinallo, and I'm joined by former Sports Information Director Mark Mentone. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Not bad. How is everybody doing over there in New Jersey?
Oh, we're living the dream, Mark. Thank you. Our guest tonight on our podcast is former women's soccer student athlete Brittany Parsons. Brittany was known as Brittany Lohman back in the day. Hi, Britt.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is our second episode in season 1 for this podcast, and we're really excited to have Brittany with us tonight. And I'm going to jump right in and ask you, what was it like for you to be a student athlete coming from Nutley High School to Felician? Nutley, Group 3 school. You probably had some success during your high school career at Nutley. Just talk a little bit about the recruiting process and what it was like initially coming to Felician.
So the recruiting process I thought was super overwhelming. To be honest, it was daunting having to talk to coaches. I used to remember I would write out what I was going to say to them because I would have such anxiety. Erin was one of the only female coaches that I was recruited by or talked to. And she was actually the first woman coach I had ever had. So that was a big selling point for us and definitely for my parents. I remember she came to a game up in Ridgewood, at Ridgewood, and they were a dominant program. Coach was over the top, and we lost 2-1. But I had a really good game, and I remember that. And she came over, she introduced herself to my coach, and she came over to me, and it was one of those moments where people looked and they're like, why is there someone talking to her? Like, why is there someone? So it was a very cool moment for me, but it was just a lot. And then coming to Felician, I didn't really know what to expect. I know I wanted to be here for the education aspect. Teaching was that was my passion, that was my calling, and I knew I would get a good education. It was definitely a plus that I could play here. I liked the dorms, to be honest. I liked the suites were much more spacious than a lot of the other things I had seen, and I was just like, ugh. So the fact that it was close for me to be home, I could be home in like 15 minutes. My parents could come and watch me, but then I also could live here and kind of have some independence and do my own thing was very appealing. So I mean, coming here, it was just a good fit for me. It was good all the way around.
Well, and your story is kind of similar to a lot of former student athletes here that, they wanted the experience of playing their sport, whatever it was. But the fact that you were close to home was a big selling point. The fact that your family could come and see you play and yet you were away. And if it was 15 minutes or 2 hours, it didn't matter. It's just the fact that you were away, and you used a great word, the independence of being, away from home and experiencing life as a college student. Those early years for Felician women's soccer, I was the head coach, and we kind of built a pretty good program. We had some success. Erin replaced me as the head coach, and she had some success initially. And then talk a little bit about what your feelings were like as you were playing for her and the teammates that you had, and everything about that.
It was an interesting experience. I mean, a lot of the girls were local, so they all shared similar, like you just said, who could go home, who lived there. It was a lot. You had a lot of different personalities. You had a lot of different, we had a range of, I would say, ability levels on our team, for sure. Freshman year, I felt like we had a lot of transient, like from freshman year to sophomore year, we didn't have like a huge carryover because I came in with, I want to say like, there may have been 7 or 9 of us.
I was going to ask Mark. I was going to ask Mark because you know how good he is with his memory and who that class was. But I want to say you were in the
Except
class
I
with.
wasn't there.
Okay,
Right, he wasn't there.
Sophomore year.
right.
He,
But was your class Brittany Brodniak,
no,
DJ? So you're a year older.
No, I'm 2 years,
2 years
older
old.
than
Okay,
them.
okay.
Yeah, she's Jess Anulevich.
Oh,
And Adrian,
Oh, okay.
and then a bunch of girls that didn't like Sam Smarrow came for 1 year. I played high school with her. I want to say Caitlin Dombrowski.
Okay, yep.
She played a year. I played club with her.
She was from Queen of Peace High School.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Was Cassandra Murphy your year?
No, she's a year older than me.
Okay. But that's the point.
Jen Ramos? No. Okay. Do you remember that name, Mark? Jen was
Yes, but I
from.
wasn't there. I remember the story. She
Okay.
had a very good game that I made her player of the week.
Yeah, she was. I want to say she was from Belleville, and you're right. Women's soccer, almost from day one to not as much right this second, but for the longest time, that sport in baseball, and Mark will yay or nay this comment, but those two sports have had the most New Jersey and even most women's soccer, clearly the most northern New Jersey alumni history. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mark?
Well, men's basketball. But yeah,
Okay, right. Yeah, I think that from a recruiting aspect, you had coaches that were from this area, and I think they recruited their base. And I was, both I and Mark were going to get to the transition from Aaron to Tom Noddy, but another coach that was from the northern part of the state, and I mean, he recruited all of New Jersey, but I think he also recruited a lot of girls from this area. It just that's been a sport that we've had a tremendous amount of local talent.
Right.
Do you remember a lot of those girls that you mentioned? Did they live in the residence halls, or did some of them commute?
I think they all commuted.
Yeah.
It was me, Jess, and Adrian that
Okay.
it was us three.
Adrian Giordano, and I'm drawing a blank on what her marriage name is.
Curry.
She is the head women's soccer coach at Middlesex Community College. The three of you, all really good players, and all made an impact right away within the program. I want to say you were at least a 3-year starter. Did you start all 4 years?
I was hurt initially going into the beginning of the season, but I'm pretty sure up until a few years ago, I did pretty sure because I did my own stats. Thanks, Mark. I had the record for most consecutive starts at 65.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I did miss the first 5 games due to an injury, and
Okay.
that
Something
that
from
hurt.
high school? Something from
from
preseason
on Tryon.
Oh, wow. When you were playing on Tryon, had it switched to turf, or did you start on grass?
We were on turf.
Okay.
We were on turf.
Yeah, and it's funny, full circle, men's and women's soccer are again playing
You're
at Tryon Field in Rutherford. We had a good, I don't know how many years, Mark, of a hiatus at the Lyndhurst Recreation Complex.
About a decade.
Yeah, we were there a long time, and a very healthy working relationship with them. But it is kind of nice. I've had other alums, both men's and women's soccer players, somewhat excited about the return to Tryon Field because of the nostalgic aspect. But
right, because that was our home.
Yeah.
You take me to Lyndhurst, and I'm like, it doesn't really do anything
Yeah.
for me. But
well, and I mean the complex at Tryon is really nice, little stadium setting with lights and really, really nice atmosphere for a college soccer game. So, you always had some community that would be, on the track and, walking around, both good and bad, obviously, both good and bad, but mostly good. And I think that, right now, today, we're fostering that relationship again, kind of rekindling that relationship. And it has been pretty good. So, Mark, go ahead, my friend, jump in there.
Well, the first one for me has to do with that transition. Your junior year, you go from the coach that recruited you, and this is tough for college kids that go through this, to a completely different type of personality. Tom Noddy was a very energetic guy, but he brought a different kind of philosophy and a different kind of personality, and that happens right in the middle of your career. What was it like for you and some of the veteran women having to go through that transition in the middle of your careers?
it was scary. I mean, essentially, I think it was towards the end of our career because it's your last season, going in as a senior with a new coach, and you're just like, I don't know what to expect. He had a good reputation from the men's side, but men's and women's are very different, and how you have to approach men and women. And although the game is the same, there are some differences, and we just didn't know how he was going to take to us and vice versa. But I think he handled it incredibly well. He brought in Byron as his assistant coach. They were super knowledgeable. Not that Erin wasn't, but it definitely was a different vibe. I can't even really explain it because I think we were all just so nervous that either we weren't going to get playing time or, he was going to bench us because we're the seniors, we're out anyway. What does it matter? We had so much fun, even though they were 6 a.m. practices every day because he was a teacher, so he would leave. I think the bonds that we created, I can think of Jenna Kroll's laugh, every morning at 6 a.m. with Byron, and just the stories, and they just kind of embraced us. They were like dads, kind of, in the best possible way, and they were just really good role models for us. Top-notch guys that you couldn't have asked for anyone better to take over your program when you are a senior and you see the potential this could go really good or really bad. But for our sake, it went really well, and we had a really successful season. I think that was the first time we won 10 games in a season during my career.
Yep, I think you're right.
Right, made the playoffs. And something else I wanted to pick your brain on regarding that is that, did you get to talk to him at all about life? Because you would just mention you had a dream of being a teacher. That's what Tom was doing. Did you get to talk to him about things other than soccer during that season?
Honestly, I don't remember. It was very long ago. I know he was a phys ed teacher. He also worked in a very affluent district. Honestly, I don't really remember, but I know he was super passionate about it and he loved it. So it was one of those things where okay, you're doing the right thing too, Brittany. You're just as passionate. It's going to be fine. Just keep on this path. And it was a good role model that he could coach and teach at the same time too. And he had a good life balance. And that's something that I think a lot of us always wanted to do. We wanted to work and still potentially be able to coach. It was nice to see it being actually played out. You
mentioned a lot of teammates or a couple others rather that you came in with, but how close are you to the now women that you played with many years ago?
Honestly, I'm not really close with many of them. I'm closest to Adrian. I talk to her frequently. I see her every once in a while. But social media is a wonderful tool now in that aspect. And we get to see, who's having babies, who's moving, what they're up to. But early on, when I graduated, I had the opportunity to be a coach in where I was teaching. And because so many of my teammates were local, I had the opportunity. I ran into so many of them and I coached against so many of them. And that was really fun. And that came kind of full circle, whether we were I coached against Christine Warren or Bird for softball in Heights. Mackenzie Woods was in Saddlebrook. And that was fun because in the one season she was pregnant. So it's just a cool, fun thing. Amanda Matola in Sea Caucus. I'm sure I'm missing one or two, but it was definitely cool to have that experience, having played with them and then see them as adults. It was just, and then as moms, and it's fun. It's cool.
One of the great things that Tom did during his tenure as women's soccer coach was there always was a women's soccer alumni game and day, and in my new role in external relations at Felician, that's something that I'm charged with bringing back, and I'm already working with coaches. Scott Maloney, who is the new women's soccer coach, he and I have already talked about something for next year. So I think Tom very correctly fostered an environment where he embraced and he made the existing players embrace the players that came before, even those that he didn't coach. There were players that I coached that came back to his alumni games and days. We just had something, last year we celebrated the 25th anniversary, and a few girls, you included, came back, and it was from different eras, which was nice. We didn't have the turnout that I was hoping for, quite honestly, but nevertheless, I think
we had a hurricane. This is
true.
This is true.
Well said. Well said.
That was also my last day at Felician, so it was nice to see some people come out for that despite the weather.
Oh wow, that's funny. That's right.
That was literally my last day.
Yeah.
I worked a volleyball match. I came to visit the 25th anniversary soccer team, and then I cleaned out my office.
Oh, how about that? Well, I think that I do think, and a lot of it I would credit to Tom, his ability to, and embrace is the best word, both the previous and the present women's soccer players, definitely motivated them to come back and always be involved. And that's going to be something that we do want to rekindle. And the fact that a lot of the women's soccer players are still somewhat local, the opportunities are there for that reunion type atmosphere, from going all the way back to my days, to the players that Aaron coached and recruited, right up to Tom and now present day. So I think that's a great thing.
You're listening to Back to the Nest, a podcast from Felician University Athletics.
So let's fast forward now to today. What are you doing? What are you doing right now? What's going on in your life?
I am currently a special education teacher right in Wallington. This is year 15 for me. I've taught self-contained. I've taught basic skills, language arts. I'm back in the classroom currently. I'm finishing up my master's in educational leadership here at Felician. So we'll see what that next step career-wise has for me. But
so do you want to be a principal? Is that like a...
My kids are too little right now, so I need to be a mom first and foremost. But yes, in the future, I would love to take that leadership role, but not yet. That's not.
Okay. I think that it's really, and I didn't even know that you were coming back to school here, but the fact that you're back here in school, that's a great part to this story. And I think before we went on the air, we were talking about a story that I'm going to relate right now. Brittany was a student worker for Mark in the athletic department in his sports information office. And one day, my wife brought our oldest son into the office, and we were just sitting and chatting, and Brittany held my son, and it's that's probably 17 years ago that happened. So the fact that you're a teacher 15 years already, and now you're looking to take that next step to a leadership aspect, and you came back to Felician to do that, that's a really great story. And those are some of the things that Mark and I are hoping, or we're going to bring out in this series, because I think it's so easy when we take a walk down memory lane, to think of all the good things, but then think about the bad things, and you try to, as best we can, to always understand that it could have been better sometimes, but for the most part, it's been a really good ride. And I mean, would you classify it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I truly think that the first time I met Mark, I said to him, I was like, "Oh, are we going to have a website like a real school?" And you were like, yeah, we're going to do a website. We're going to do everything. And I was like, okay. And then, because when I was here, the castle was condemned. This other building over here was condemned. And then I hadn't been here in, oh my gosh, I don't even know. It was probably for that event last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking around with my kids, and I was like, this is stunning. This is so nice. Oh, actually, no, I remember. I had a student teacher, and she got some award. So I went into that building, and I remember looking around going, wow, we didn't have this. We didn't have anything like this. And then I got more of a tour when I was here last year, but I've still never actually been in the castle.
Wow.
This building, I think it was here. Well, I know it was here. I don't think we had a radio station.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have a radio station. This building was here. It definitely wasn't functioning at the time. And our first guest, Anthony Cabrera, in this series, when he walked into this building, he was blown away. And whenever I bring somebody in here, and Brittany's reaction tonight was the same. You're looking, and we're sitting in a studio that's a legit, it's a legit radio station studio. And then for the current students and future students, this is just a great opportunity. And I think you're right. People of your age that are coming back for the first time in a long time, walking around, you get nostalgic and you go, wow, this is great. I wish this was here when I was here, kind of
the
a thing.
Gym expansion is lovely.
Mhm.
I mean, you guys, it's awesome. I wish you had more room to do even more stuff. You're a little landlocked, but it is what it is.
Right.
But I mean, you're doing the best with what you have, and you're definitely, the roots are still here too. And having familiar faces like you, I mean, it definitely makes you want to come back. And
I appreciate you saying that, and I think that that's hopefully going to be a motivation for the existing administration as it relates to both myself and Mark, not only in this podcast, but trying to really reconnect with the alumni base and make this a really positive experience. And I can tell you, I don't want to speak for Mark, but I think he feels this way. I mean, we love this. He and I, and he basically handles the Facebook page much more than I do in terms of posting things. But I mean, the fact that we have this solid alumni following through that social media vehicle is terrific. And I think that there are a lot of alums that are excited about this series. And what we hope for is that they're going to hear this and they're going to go, "Hey, I want to be next. I want to chat with Mark and JR." Right, Mark?
Yeah, it was never just a job to me, but I actually kind of want to follow up on that theme because Brittany was not only my student worker, she was my first student worker. So I kind of want to ask her from the student athlete's perspective that she was classmates with, what it was like, because it ended well for me. And I people were very happy for me and treated me well when I told everybody I was leaving. But the beginning was rough. And I'm sure Brittany remembers that when I got there, people would ask me, "Hey, why are you going on this road trip and we don't have a trainer?" As if that was my decision. People would ask me things like, "Hey, why are you writing an article every time we lose?" They really didn't have a sense of what a full-time sports information director did or was supposed to do. And I'm very curious what that was like for Brittany, working in my office and kind of having to explain that to her teammates and her friends.
I mean, well, I didn't really know either. So I was just kind of there for the ride. But I mean, for a lot of us, we were just excited that we had someone that was writing stories about us. Yes, they were losing stories, but it was better than nothing, because you would go to other schools or you would hear about your other friends and like their school logos on their vending machine. And we didn't have that. Or, their jerseys are hanging up in the gym. We didn't have that. They're getting brochures at every game with a list of the roster and, fun facts of the program and the season. And we didn't have any of that. So I think being the first is always the worst, because you have to set that tone and establish that culture of, no, this is what it's supposed to be. You just have to lay the groundwork for that. So, I mean, I think I spent hours typing up stats and things of that nature that didn't really exist. Right? I mean, every stat from every program from as early as we had. And it was like archaic, that we're looking through files and files of numbers and
sometimes handwritten. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we had to start somewhere. But look at how much it's grown and look how successful it's been. And now you can't do this without an SID. Like, it's not possible. Schools have multiple because this is the way of the world. It's a necessity. But yes, the beginning was very rough because no one really knew how to receive you, how to handle you. And you didn't have an office. I just said to JR, you were literally in the hallway outside of their office, right?
Yep. Looked like JR's secretary for one semester, and then we moved downstairs. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like even your computer was a little archaic, everything was just, and there was just piles and piles and no offense to you, but you're not the most organized guy. So, I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot. And then when we did move downstairs, there still wasn't, it was a process. And then once it became digital, it was a little bit easier, but it's still, I mean, before him, I was Erin's work study student. And I remember having to type out the athletic scholarships on the typewriter.
The typewriter.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I still
and that had to be like 2006, 2000. So it's not like it's 1975.
Right, but it was archaic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Two young men that helped me move downstairs, I believe, were Brittany's classmates, or very close, although one left. DJ Senna, who didn't finish at Felician but was there 3 years, and Scott Van Ness.
Yeah.
I still remember they were baseball players, and they helped me move my desk downstairs.
Right. 2 baseball players.
And I was there for 15 and a half years.
Yeah. And it's funny, when we made the move down to where the athletic offices still are, downstairs in the bottom level of the student center, I didn't know if it was going to be our permanent home. And I remember initially not really unpacking everything because I wasn't sure if we were staying. And then eventually, obviously, as Mark said, 15 years go by like at the drop of a hat. But yeah, it's
And I never did get organized.
no, well, I hope
Shocker.
I hope we don't edit that out, Mark. I hope this is this is a good thing to keep
Be
in
authentic.
there.
Be authentic.
Very authentic. Yes, that's a great word for you. Authentic, Mark. People are going to listen to this podcast. They're just going to know right away exactly what and who we're talking about, without a doubt.
But the last one I would have for Brittany is that we talked about that 25th anniversary a couple of years ago. What inspired you to come back that day?
It probably sounds so corny, but I take great pride in the fact that I was able to be a student athlete. Like, not everyone gets to do that. So, it's something that I love to share with people and, put on my resume. And when I coach my daughter and I have 7-year-olds running around and they're like, "Did you get to play like professional?" I was like, "No, but I got to play in college." And they're like, "Oh my God." They just look at you, and it's just like something that, again, not everyone gets to experience. So to be able to share that with my kids and bring them to the gym and just see her, like, I don't know, it was just one of those things. It's you have to just take pride in it, and hopefully my kids understand, like, not that this defines me, but this is something that made me who I am today. And I'm just very grateful that I had the opportunity to play and do something that I love and make so many connections with people and just enjoy it and be able to still do it now, but just take pride in it. And it's just something that I'm very grateful.
You're listening to Back to the Nest, a podcast from Felician University Athletics.
When did you stop coaching?
I stopped coaching the fall of 2015 was my last season.
Because weren't you? It was a co-op, Becton and Wallington, right? That you were coaching, right?
Yes, the girls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, fun fact: I had 3 girls from that co-op then come and play here at Felician.
Really?
For Tom.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was a really cool moment for our program also because it showed the girls, oh, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, I can do it. And Tom was awesome too and super instrumental in during preseason. He would come to some of my preseason practices. And again, those girls have that awe moment of, oh my gosh, this is a college coach. Like, it was just something very cool and something very special that not everyone can have. And again, Tom and Byron showed up, and I talked to Tom a lot when he was recruiting some of my girls. And again, a super full circle, moment too, and kind of put not our school program on the map, but just gave the girls a sense of, oh, if I put my mind to something, I can actually do it. And coach just isn't saying nonsense about playing in college. No, I can actually do it because my teammate over here just did it. So that was very cool. It was very.
So how many kids do you have? How old are they?
I have 2 children. My daughter just turned 8 and my son is 4. So I coach her team now. We're going to start club in the fall, and I will do that. That's a lot, but it's very fun. I have to say, I've created a really awesome community of parents and little girls that just love the sport, and I just want to be a fan. And I think actually Coach Schneider, when I was here, who was the men's coach at the time, he was huge in helping me coach afterwards also. But I'm pretty sure said I just want to be a fan for my kids. I don't care if they play soccer. I just want to be a fan. And you don't understand that until you have kids of your own. And I completely get that. And it's similar to what we were talking about before. You just want your children to find their niche and what they're good at and what makes them happy. Right now, this makes her happy. And she's like, Mommy, I love that you're my coach. And I don't want to do this if you're not my coach. So for right now, as long as she loves it and loves me, I will be her coach, and we'll, navigate this journey together. And it's definitely different. I feel like I'm very different the way I approach her versus how I did in the past, and I feel like I'm a little just like, okay, I'm softer and I'm not as intense, but she is only 8, so we'll see. But it's fun. It's a fun journey. It's a new exciting chapter. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything in closing tonight?
No, I think we've covered everything we needed to cover.
All right. Well, we want to thank Brittany for coming on tonight, and this was wonderful. And I have to say, this was very different than our first episode, but very meaningful because this series isn't going to be about we won this game, or it's not about that. This is really, what was your experience like? How has it impacted your life? And it's obvious, and I hope that anyone that listens to this, they would have to pick up on the fact that Felician College at the time was a big deal and a big influencer for you in your life. And I think it's, again, it demonstrates that just in the fact that you're back here for your masters. I think that's great. So thank you for coming on. Really appreciate having you tonight, and we'll definitely see you at the women's soccer alumni event, probably in the spring of 2025. That's when we're talking about it. Anyway,
I filled out the Google form.
So
did.
good. Excellent. See, that's great. See, you got it from Scott. That's terrific. All right. Yeah, see, we're making connections already, Mark.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking of me.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Appreciate that.
And with that, Mark, our second episode coming to a close. Look at that. Yeah, who would have thought? Again, for Brittany, for Mark Mentone, I'm J.R. Dinello. Thank you, everybody.
For more info on all things Felician Athletics, just go to FelicianUathletics.com. And if you're a Felician alumni who would like to be on a future installment of this podcast series, email us at radiostation@felician.edu. This podcast has been a production of Radio Felician, the voice of the Franciscan University of New Jersey. The views expressed are solely those of the hosts and guests and are not official statements of Felician University. Visit Radio Felician on the web anytime at radiofelician.com. Want to send an email? Reach out at radiostation@felician.edu. Radio Felician, the Falcon.